Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Before I Let You Go by Kellie Wallace. And this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Whispers of fog clung to the pine trees swaying in the morning breeze. The unyielding conifers reminded Elsbeth of soldiers standing in formation, protecting the land beyond the shadows. She rolled her window down and inhaled the fresh, sharp scent into her lungs. She could get used to the unpopulated country air. The agent insisted the house is a perfect fixer-upper, she exclaimed, returning to the property listing on her cell phone. I've been dreaming of it all week. Can you imagine the stories it could tell? I wonder what we might find in the attic. 100-year-old paintings, priceless jewels, or children's toys lost to the ages? You've seen one too many Indiana Jones movies, Sarah remarked. Let's not romanticize dusty old homes. They're not a ton of work. Besides, you failed to mention it was in the middle of nowhere. How did you find this place? It's deeper in the boonies than the boonies. I must have signed up for a newsletter because I got an email about the house last week. I sent an inquiry and the agent called me right away. Zara's pale blue eyes narrowed. How long has the house been on the market? Elsbeth closed the property app on her phone and glanced out the window. Droplets of sunlight filtered through the thick canopy. It was gorgeous out here. About 8 months. Look, I admit it's not the ideal market out there, but it could be a DIY project. She grinned at her sister. One we could do together. Zara shook her head, bringing the car to a halt at a stop sign. I don't know, Elsbeth. Dad's health has been poor lately, and I don't think it's wise to rush into something like this. Elsbeth didn't want to think about her father's failing health. A hefty project was something Zara and Elsbeth needed to reconnect and keep their minds busy. If you're worried about the money, I've been saving for a deposit. It's not about the money. Zara released a breath between gritted teeth. I'll inspect the house with you, but I'm not making any promises, okay? Elsbeth nodded, feeling a little deflated. All right. Her sister's negative outlook on life often made it difficult to enjoy the little things. Zara hissed as she veered onto a one-lane dirt road, gravel crunching under her tires. The thicket grew dense, creating shadows across the laneway. This house better be worth it. This road is going to destroy my tires. Around a bend, Elsbeth spotted a brick letterbox shaded by a mature oak tree. Look, there's the house, number 24. The red brick Georgian colonial home that came into view stood proud against the sky despite its cosmetic flaws. Shutters were hanging by their hinges. A window was shattered on the second story. The front porch was blanketed by leaves, and the white columns extending from the main structure cried out for a fresh coat of paint. Zara parked behind the black sedan. Her mood was not improved, her lips forming a thin line as the real estate agent, who'd been staring at them from the moment she spotted their car, shook her hand. I'm Connie Smart. We spoke on the phone. Thank you for meeting with us, Elsbeth said, her entire body itching to explore. The photos on the listing don't do the house justice. The property is gorgeous, but the house needs quite a lot of work. It hasn't been lived in for 10 years. The previous owner passed away and their family let it fall to ruin, but it's the perfect fixer-upper, Connie said as she unlocked the front door. Zara exchanged glances with Elsbeth and rolled her eyes, clearly unimpressed by the historic architecture. Once inside, the stale damp air and the stench of mothballs slapped Elsbeth in the face. The foyer was covered in a thin layer of dirt and grime. A single staircase led to the second story, banking a collection of antique furniture covered in crusty white sheets. Elsbeth ran her fingers along the mantelpiece, drawing a line in the dust. Has there been much interest besides us? Connie hovered in the archway separating the living and dining rooms. I've had a few phone calls and 2 inspections. You're the first I've had in a few weeks. The house needs an entire renovation. I'd hate to see the state of the plumbing and the roof, Zara said from the kitchen. Are the sellers open to negotiation? Connie nodded. They're keen to sell the property as quickly as possible. Elsbeth met Zara in the kitchen. The marble countertop was in near-new condition, complementing the milky white cabinets beneath the layer of dust. Elsbeth leaned against the island and crossed her arms. So, what do you think? Zara studied the kitchen, taking in the space. It would have been a spectacular home in its prime. I want a building inspection before I decide. It's going to be a big project, Els, maybe too much for us to take on. She ran a hand through her platinum blonde hair. Do you plan for us to stay here during the renovations? We live 2 hours away. I haven't decided yet. I'm willing to drive back and forth on weekends to oversee everything. Once the bathrooms are done, I can tentatively move in. You have more dedication than I do. What do you want to do with the house once it's completed? Sell it? I was hoping we could move in together. I'm outgrowing my apartment, and you can't live with Mom and Dad forever. Zara laughed, tossing her head back. You're optimistic. We barely survived our teens living under the same roof. What makes you think we can do it again now? We're grown women now. This house is large enough that we can each have our own wing. She shot Zara a pleading glance. I admit renovating a house is a big undertaking, but I'm willing to commit if you are. In the archway, Connie cleared her throat. Elsbeth, I can arrange another inspection for you next week. She glanced at her watch. I have another appointment in the city, so I'll call you on Friday. Is that all right? Elsbeth surveyed the grand space, cataloging possible paint colors, carpet samples, and bathroom fittings in her head. Potential was limitless. She was nervous to tell Zara she'd already put in an offer. There was something about the house that called to Elsbeth from the moment she saw the ad. Perhaps it was the history of isolation that appealed to her. Taking risks wasn't part of her nature, but this house felt like it belonged to her. She could feel it in her bones. Zara placed her hand on top of Elsbeth's. You really love it, don't you? You know how some things come into your life that are meant to be? The number on the letterbox is my birthday. The bathroom walls are painted my favorite color. Everywhere I look, I see little nuances of myself. Perhaps it's a coincidence, or maybe I'm seeing things that aren't there. Her fingers intertwined with her sister's. This house is meant to be ours. We may not last a lifetime here, but I want to give this a chance. She smiled wide, optimism sparkling in her hazel eyes. What do you think? Zara's gaze flicked between Elsbeth and Connie as she shuffled from one product heel to the other. Elsbeth could see the gears turning in her sister's head, most likely listing the pros and cons of buying a rundown property with little return. Connie, we would love to view the property again. Call Elsbeth on Friday to make the arrangements.